Just Paul with you. It is 10:32, and I am joined live in the studio by one Mary Dorman, who is our community radio insurer, my personal insurer. But you are not here as an insurance person.
No, not
Well,
today.
where are you?
Today I'm wearing my other red hat.
Try again. That's the microphone here. I got you. See? It's all, I was explaining how it's kind of a crapshoot when you sit down at the board here every morning.
See, this is perfect. This is just what my life is about. You try to plan for something, and then when things don't go according to plan, you have a plan B. That pretty much sums up my professional life and my volunteer life.
You need to be behind a microphone because that's a fantastic segue. So helping out. Planning for contingencies, of course, not just in insurance, but also in with your role with the local Red Cross.
Correct. That is my other passion, is the American Red Cross, helping spread the word about how to be prepared, spread the word about everything that we do, because unfortunately there's sometimes this impression that the Red Cross doesn't exist anymore in Del Norte County. And we're here. We're just quiet behind the scenes, and we show up when people need us. So
I don't think that at all. You're not quiet and behind the scenes. When people need you, and people need you in big ways often here, and you're always there. So
that is true. One of the biggest things that the American Red Cross actually is the single family home disaster. That's really where we spend most of our disaster money, is if an individual's home burns down, like unfortunately happened recently, that one household with all those kids. If there is a need, if they don't have insurance, if they don't have somewhere to go, then typically it's the fire department that will call American Red Cross, and we dispatch one of our volunteers. And through donations, we're totally donation driven, we are able to help provide housing for a couple of nights and some money for those clothes and diapers and things that folks need for the first couple of days until we can hook them up with county resources and other resources that can help them more long term. But we have volunteers that show up when they're called and hold hands and walk people through the process, and at least help folks know they can have a roof over their head.
Wow, that's very important. So other than just, when the river rises, when there's an earthquake, when there's a fire or something like that, when it's something more specific and localized for a family that is just as tragic for them as the bigger disasters that can befall people around them, that the Red Cross still steps in and is there. That's neat. And
exactly.
And that it's mostly what you do. That's interesting.
People don't realize that. And preparedness training for everyone, getting the word out that you need to assume that we're going to have a tsunami tomorrow. What are you going to do? Do you have food? Do you have water? Do you have medication? Have you got food for your pets? How much gas do you have in your tank right now? Because if we have a big wildfire or a power outage that lasts more than just a couple of days, are you going to be able to feed yourself? Are you going to have gas in your car? Because guess what the pumps need to run? Electricity. So, for instance, I never have my tank below half a tank.
Oh, wow. Just in case.
Just in case.
That's so frightening to me.
In 2011, when we did the evacuation for the March tsunami, on my way in, I stopped at the gas station and topped my tank off at 2 a.m.
See? That's because you know what to expect and what to plan for. That's good.
And that's what we're trying to do, is spread the word. People can find out what they need by going to a couple of different places.
Okay.
They can always go to redcross.org. All sorts of great resources there on preparedness. And also our local Office of Emergency Services has fantastic resources, and that is preparedelnorte.org.
Now, we recently had we recently had like this test, right? We had the
perfect segue. That's where I was going next. We planned this.
I know, and I realized when we started talking about the Red Cross that I was doing it in the reverse order that we had discussed beforehand. But I am so not awake yet. we had this test, and everybody in the room. We had a big meeting happening for this summer program right here in KFUG during the test, and there were folks from Humboldt as well as Del Norte here,
Great.
And the Humboldt folks got their messages before the Del Norte folks. They got it about 2 minutes before everybody in Del. So everybody from Humboldt is getting their texts and they're getting their calls and saying, there's a test and tsunami and blah, blah. And everybody in Del Norte, the Del Norte people are sitting here kind of looking at each other going, and then everybody, then it all came across and we were like happy. We even got a phone call here saying, an automated phone call. There are things the Red Cross does in big sorts of ways around the globe. Right here in Del Norte County, what sorts of things do we had the tsunami test, but what sorts of contingencies should we prepare for, and how specifically for Del Norte residents should we prepare for those things?
Okay, before I answer that, I want to go back to what you were just talking about with the alert.
Okay.
At the preparedelnorte.org website, you go to it, there's a box you click on, and you can set yourself up to get those alerts. A lot of people out there listening, I'm guessing, have no clue what you were just talking about as far as getting a text.
I assumed, yes.
So, if you are not already signed up to get emergency notices from our county, if something were to happen, go to preparedelnorte.org, click on the Everbridge. It's a box that's right there. It says click here. And you can let the county know how you want to be notified and in what order. So, for instance, for me, I have my personal cell phone as primary. I will get a text. I will continue to get that text until I reply yes.
Wow.
So the system knows I got it. After a certain number of tries, they'll go to my next option, which is a phone call to my office. If I don't respond there, my next is a phone call to my cell. And then lastly, it's an email. Wow. Now, you don't have to have that many, but you can tell the county how you want to get notified. And this way, the county just has to basically push a button and send it to the entire county. Or they're able to do a specific geographic site. So if we have a concern about flooding on the Smith River, they're able to notify everybody within a certain distance of the Smith River.
Wow, okay.
It is the easiest way for us to do it. Reverse 911 used to be the way in the past. Most people don't have landlines anymore, so that won't work. This is the best way for you to help the county help you. If you do not have an email address, which is one of the requirements to sign up through that link, you can call Cindy Henderson directly.
Wow.
And she will get you signed up. And her phone number, by the way, is 707-954-8775. You can also call the local county office of emergency services, and I don't actually have that phone number handy, but I'll get it to you. But either one of those, if you do not have an email address, you can call them directly and they'll get you signed up. That's fantastic. It's nice to see something like that, like the digital age being used in a helpful fashion, as opposed to just spread advertising and things. Here we're saving lives, we're keeping you informed. This is very specific sort of thing, and the fact that it's an automated sort of system behind the works there. And the county can just press one button and get the word out to folks. And before somebody asks, because I know somebody out there is wondering this, no, the information is kept private and secure. They're not turning around and selling it to somebody. So you are perfectly safe putting this information into the system. You need to do it so you can be informed. So it's what we were talking about before was the county emergency services? Correct. Their phone number is 464-7213 that I find here online. That is perfect. I tried to look it up and couldn't get it on my phone. Okay, and before we're done, let's run down all this information for people to get. Sure. So do you have specific, and I'm sorry, if there's something else you want to get out. That was perfect. I just want to make sure, since we talked about the alerts, that folks out there knew what we were talking about. And the reason why we got ours probably 2 minutes afterwards is just that we pushed our button 2 minutes after them. But the fact is, it was only 2 minutes. Yeah, which is amazing. And minutes count in a situation like that. Even, the first two, all of them count. And we don't have, depending on where you live, those many minutes to respond to a situation. So you see where I live, about 20 feet away, right here.
This is, I was talking on the radio before about how I stay up at night thinking. I'll lay there and rehearse. Where are the car keys? What can we put the cats in? Because when I feel the ground shake here, we're not sticking around, right? I mean, how far out do we get? So the run-up zone goes basically what? Up that side of the road to Howland Hill?
What I just pulled open, since we don't have a webcam here, is
scary.
I brought with me the evacuation zone map for tsunami. And so this is something that's really important for you to get. And again, it's available on the Prepared Del Norte website. It lets you know if we have a tsunami evacuation, what parts of the town really need to be moving. Now, we're not saying the water necessarily is going to get all the way up to 9th Street, but what we're saying is 9th Street is a great line in the sand for everybody to remember you need to get on the other side of 9th Street. So let me just push in a little plug here. If we have the alarms go, if you get notified, you need to know where to go. If, however, it's a near shore earthquake, as opposed to one that came from Japan, they may not have time to push buttons and sound the alarms. You need to know what sign. So if we have an earthquake that lasts longer than about 15, 20 seconds, or if we have an earthquake that is strong enough to knock you off your feet, as soon as it is safe to do so, you move your behind.
And now, do you remember in Japan, I mean, that's basically what they had. They had an offshore sort of an event.
They had a nearshore event on their side.
They had what, maybe 15 minutes?
Correct.
That's scary.
And especially because if you think about how they are the most well-prepared nation, they have earthquakes all the time.
Way of life. And
the amount of damage that they had. One of the things I've been fortunate to do is be involved in the exchange with Rakuzen Takata, our sister city that lost about 2,000 people. About almost 10% of their population died in that.
Wow.
And I was fortunate enough to go and visit and see how wiped out their town was. But it all comes down to preparedness. And so you have to have, we talked about your gas tank, you have to have at least a gallon of water per person per day. A lot of the resources out there say 3 days of food. I like to recommend 7 to 10 days of food.
Let me stop you. Can we back up? We were talking about with the evacuation and this remarkably extensive map of where, and KFUG is in the evacuation zone. So if an earthquake happens that meets those requirements, come on in. We got Ted. Ted's walked down. He just walks down from the transfer station to do his radio stuff. It's nice.
Cool.
But so we have to get out of here. And it looks like the transfer station is right. They don't have to leave, but we do. So we'd get out. Now you were talking about things you should have in your house if you have to, if you lose services. If you have to leave, where would you go if you have to evacuate? Because you can have, 3 days, but something happens, we have to get out. It doesn't matter how much food and water I have in the house. I'm gone. I'm up the hill. I'm at an evacuation center. Where can we find out where to go?
Well, that's what your local radio station is going to help you with.
Yeah, see, that's the problem is the local radio station, at least here, will have to go.
Well, see, right now you're at the edge of the evacuation zone. So maybe on one of your next grants, you can get portable equipment so you can broadcast maybe from the transfer station
That's
across
a better
the block.
We were just going to raise it about 20 feet.
Well, there's always that. Somehow I think the portable equipment might be a little less expensive than raising up about 30 feet. But you're right. If you need to go, having a go bag with your most important things. I have one in my car.
That's smart.
Also have different things at home because maybe I'm on the road. I'm in Eureka for the day and Eureka gets evacuated.
Yeah.
I need to have certain things with me, like backup battery for my phone, charging cord for my phone. Do I have my medications? Those kinds of things that when you go to Red Cross shelter, when one is set up. And by the way, we set up when we are requested. So the county has to ask us to set up a shelter before we do. We don't just show up on our own. We're going to be able to give you somewhere to sleep, a roof over your head. We're going to have food. We're going to have some games for the kids. It's not fancy, but it is safe. We're not necessarily...
Where are the fancy places to go? We've got water.
Did I mention...
Food, roulette.
Did I mention that Red Cross is a nonprofit totally supported by volunteer dollars?
So not fancy.
We do not get government money. There is that misconception out there. It is totally volunteer money. But you need to have the things like your glasses. You know, we're not necessarily going to have glasses for you.
And these are small little things that will just pop right out of your brain when you're trying to get out of the house and trying to save yourself.
Which is why you want to have your go bag ready to go before that happens.
Okay.
So we talked about food. I typically recommend 7 to 10 days because if we do have a major disaster, it's going to be a while before they can get food into
And
us.
that's different for us here. In other more civilized places in the world, it's like what they say 3 days? 3 days water
3
and
days
food,
is a minimum.
You got to double that here.
Medical we talked about, including copies of your prescriptions, flashlight, extra batteries, ideally a hand crank radio.
Wow.
Because if you've got batteries, they may run out. Any personal documents you have. If you think about it, you've lost everything. You're going to need a copy of your birth certificate and that kind of stuff. Information on your insurance company.
There you go.
I can't tell you how many people I asked during the course of my day job. You know, who's your insurance with? I don't know. I just pay it every month online. You need to know that so that when something goes wrong, you know who to call. There is no central database that we can look up and go, oh, your insurance is with company X, Y, or Z.
And these days, too, so many people have insurance with, like, online places, places that barely exist physically in the world that are just far and away as people get. I like the fact that I know you and that you're my insurance agent.
and I know where to find me.
And I can call you.
Exactly. Cell phone with chargers, if you have a backup battery specifically for your cell phone, that's really helpful. Emergency contact information for your family. We recommend that if you've got, like in your case, your daughter's not here, sometimes local phones can get overloaded. You can have better luck contacting somebody outside of town. So going back to the March 11 tsunami evacuation, I would use my dad, who is living in Arkansas, as my central contact point. So I would let him know what's going on. And then all my brothers and sisters and my kids and everything could check in with him. He's smart. Outside the area. Texts are easier to get through in an emergency situation than actual phone call. So that's always really good. Maps of the area. I also have the evacuation maps for Humboldt County in my glove box. So if I'm in Eureka, like I said, I know what zones I need to evacuate from. By the way, Bayshore Mall, bad place to be.
That's not a good place,
No. It's actually below water level.
How is that possible? Well, they just have dikes around the Bayshore?
They've got berms built up around it.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay, but see, right there, you can get up the hill really quick, up Henderson or whatever it is up there. And
That's it. Make sure you talk to your kids, that you have your kids do an emergency kit. We actually have got a program we're doing in a lot of our local schools right now. We call the Pillowcase Project, where we're teaching kids fit what you really got to have in this pillowcase, and they decorate them, and so they learn about taking it, and then they go home and share the preparedness message with their family. Hey, Mom and Dad, look what I got today. We need to talk about this.
That's a great idea. Yeah, that's really good.
One of the other, I wanted to talk about this, things that Red Cross is doing right now is it's about preparedness, about being there when something goes wrong, but we also feel very strongly about saving lives. So we have our first aid and CPR courses that you can do online. You go to that same website. They're very easy to use.
The website being redcross.org?
Redcross.org. And also smoke detector installations. We call it our fire safety program. There is another name for it that just left me. Oh my gosh. We've been able to set up with local volunteers the opportunity to go into certain areas and actually go through and see if they have working smoke detectors. And if they don't, we're able to put them in, do a little education with the family about what to do when it goes off, having a family escape plan. In fact, tomorrow, a bunch of our volunteers from here and down in Santa Rosa are going over to Hoopa. And they have 150 homes signed up out there that they will be doing in a period of 5 hours, installing smoke detectors, replacing batteries if they've got detectors that are in good shape, and talking to them about evacuation.
That's wonderful. How many volunteers are doing that?
We've got 50 volunteers.
Nice.
We're hoping to have enough teams to kind of get it all done. We've done them up here once or twice. I've helped in Humboldt County 2 times that we've done it. We've done, 2 of them up here, mainly mobile home parks, trying to save a life. Because smoke detectors, a lot of people pull those batteries out.
Or you cook something and it goes off and you're like, this lousy smoke detector doing exactly what it's supposed to do.
Well, it's not so lousy when it's your house and
yeah.
it's the thing that wakes you up and saves your family.
Wow.
In a nutshell.
So you've had recently a couple of years that have been kind of off the charts for you, right? Busy-wise, just getting out the disasters that have happened in California relatively locally that you've helped respond to?
Yes. The last couple of years, especially wildfires, and most recently what happened down in the Santa Rosa area, have just been devastating. Poor Lake County, 2 years in a row, has had devastating fires, and we're all just holding our breath this summer that what's left doesn't get hit again.
Wow.
2 years ago, I think it was, the Clayton fire, I was fortunate enough to go down to volunteer. I helped with public affairs and got to see all the different things we do. So we set up shelters in that kind of situation. We also help with disaster assessment. We go out, it's Red Cross teams that go out and say, okay, this address is totally damaged, this address has no damage, and then other agencies use our information to determine if this person's eligible for help and that person isn't. And then we do case management afterwards. That's where we're really busy right now down in Santa Rosa in helping people get access to funds through other nonprofit organizations. We have caseworkers that fill out paperwork based on the disaster assessment. And then people take, Red Cross says I'm eligible, and then that opens the doors to other things.
Wow.
It's not just the immediate in those long ones. It's more long-term where we're able to coordinate them with other services.
So I imagine other counties, other communities in California and around the nation, that there's one Mary Dorman person in each of these places doing all of this. That's not the truth. You need help for all of this to happen. The Red Cross needs help for all of this to happen, right?
That's it exactly. We do have some paid positions, but the vast majority of what we do is volunteer based, and we're always looking for new volunteers. We have a small but mighty group here in Delaware County. We have a slightly larger and very mighty group in Humboldt County. But yes, we're looking for volunteers who are able to go in and do the pillowcase projects with kids, or are able to respond to a single family disaster and fill out a little bit of paperwork and hand them, it's actually a card that we use, that we load, that allows them to pay for a hotel room and buy their diapers and things. We look for volunteers to help set up a shelter. We have to do inventory on our cots and our blankets that we have spread out throughout the county. Help with public affairs, doing things like this. It's one of the things I've been trained for. And I'm also on the board of directors for the chapter California Northwest, which runs from Santa Rosa all the way up here. So we're always looking for locals that can help with that, who are interested in PR and fundraising. Very important. I've been doing it now for about 11 years.
Wow.
And it's something that helps keep word out, keep us going, keep us being there for people when they need us most. Each one of those requires some training. This last summer, we ended up with so many disasters at the same time. We actually streamlined our volunteer process.
I remember that. We talked about that on KFOG because we had all the hurricanes and things. You were asking.
We had hurricanes, we had flooding, we had back-to-back hurricanes, we had the fire in Santa Rosa, we had the Chetco fire up in Brookings. Even for an organization as large as ours, we were stretched.
Yeah.
And so the process is much quicker. There is a background check because we want to make sure that we have people that are safe in our shelters. But it's something that anyone can call me, or you can go to redcross.org, and there's a little bit of information there about the volunteer opportunities. There's something for everybody. You don't have to dedicate 20 hours a week to it or something like that. For instance, for the board, it's a 1.5 hour meeting per month and some committee work. Because we're up here in the office down in Santa Rosa, we call in. They're actually doing a meeting with the board next May at our office in Humboldt County.
Oh, wow.
So that's going to be really cool to get everybody up here. But it's an organization that started way back when Charles Dumont, was unhappy at what was happening with the wounded in the battles in Europe. That's how the Red Cross first started. Wow. And then Clara Barton, who on her own was going out and helping with the wounded, no matter which side they were on, ended up going to Europe and learning about the Red Cross and brought it back. It's actually part of the Geneva Convention.
Really?
Yes.
Wow.
And we have a charter from the U.S. government, thanks to all the work Clara Barton did in bringing it back to us. But one of the international things that we do is we are one of the few organizations that is impartial no matter what. And sometimes we've gotten some flack for that. But because of it, most governments out there will allow us access to political prisoners and things like
so
that.
Talking like Red Cross, Red Crescent sort of thing.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Now, you've talked about volunteering, so you need sort of sustaining volunteering on an organizational level. But at the time of a disaster, of an event, is it too late then for somebody to get a hold of you in some fashion and say, I want to help out, I want to volunteer? Or are there things for them to do on the ground immediately?
With a lot of those, it kind of depends on what we're doing. So that's one of the reasons why the expedited process came about. It is possible for someone to get approved in a week. There are certain things that they can do. If we can't use them in the shelter, there are other things that Cindy's organization can use folks for. We've got the DART team, the disaster animal response team.
Yes.
That's it. Them. Awesome people that help with the pets and the large animals and the birds, because there are some requirements in our shelters as far as having pets there for health and safety reasons. So if we can't use that particular person at that particular time, we find somewhere for them to go.
That's wonderful. That's great. Okay, so we are 1 minute past 11.
Can I throw in one more thing?
No, that's my next question. What else would you like to say?
Okay, so...
This is how I cover up not doing all the work before the interview. I just have the question at the end.
I love it. Okay, so 2 things I want to throw in. Number 1 is, if you are interested in finding out more about Red Cross, you can always contact me. My office number is 707-464-2414. If I'm not available, please leave me a message and let me know that it's about American Red Cross.
Yeah, because you'll be calling a State Farm office.
Right, you're calling my day job.
Yeah.
If you want to go to the website, again, it is redcross.org. Okay. I'm also have my Facebook business page. You can find me there. We also have the California Northwest Red Cross Facebook page.
Okay.
You can stop by my office at 490 L Street, which is on the corner of 101 South and 5th, across from Denny's. Oh man, I forgot it. There was something else. Oh, donations. I wanted to touch on donations. You can set it up so that you are donating a set amount every month. You can come and do a one-time donation. I bring this up because this topic comes up periodically every time there's a big disaster. I have folks show up at my doorstep with clothing. And we really try to get the word out, and we've seen this over and over again, not just our organization, but a lot of others, that people are so generous and they so want to help. A lot of times, though, it really is a financial donation that works best for the people in need. And the reason for that is that, number one, they can pick what clothes they wear and fit into, and it allows us to turn around and spend that money in local businesses that are hurting because of the impact.
And logistically, too, moving items as opposed to electronically moving funds is one thing.
We end up with storage fees. We end up having to take our volunteers out of the shelter to sort clothing. And frankly, sometimes folks aren't as generous as others, and they use us as a dumping ground.
Yeah,
I saw 3 prom dresses come through.
Wow.
I'm sorry, somebody who just lost their home is not, and it wasn't prom season, you know, is not going to pick a pink silk taffeta gown when what they need is socks and underwear. And I'm sorry, I wouldn't want to have used underwear.
Oh, yeah, sure. And we all remember, like, canned food drives where, you get the lima beans and pumpkin, that kind of thing. No, give money. It goes much farther and is much more helpful.
Yeah. And when we have a disaster, there's always a text that we send out that allows you to do a quick text. But if anybody has any questions about Red Cross in general, Red Cross locally, volunteer opportunities, they can go to redcross.org or they can get a hold of me.
And if you have not gotten on the list and become a part of what Cindy's offering and the notifications with your cell phone and, emails that I saw work here the day we had the test, go to preparedelnorte.org and get on that list, right?
That's
Get on the phone tree.
That's right.
All right. Mary, thank you very much for coming in.
My pleasure. Thanks so much for the opportunity.
Well, we'd like to have you back again soon and talk about stuff, I guess, as we get into, disaster. Is summer disaster season?
Disasters happen year-round.
Oh, there you go. That's right. Always be prepared.
It's either, especially in our county, it's either wildfires, or it is a tsunami, or it's flooding, or again, most commonly, it's the single-family house fire.
Yeah. Well, I certainly hope whatever happens, whatever shakes out for you the rest of the spring and summer, that it's not like a couple of summers ago or last summer.
Thank you.
I hope you have an uneventful year, I guess.
Thank you.